You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
All right, guys, we need to talk about biological men competing against women in sports. Over the past year, especially the past year, we've done countless videos of biological men going over into women's sports and dominating them. This is a real thing. This is a real problem when it comes to protecting women in women's sports. Now, there only seems to be like one lone crusader out there actually trying to protect women's sports. And I'm talking about an actual female athlete, and that is actually Riley Gaines. Guys, what happened today in the House should be very, very concerning. In the House, a bill actually passed to actually keep biological men out of women's sports. And we know that the Joe Biden administration wants to amend Title IX to actually allow biological men who say they are women to actually compete in women's sports. That is very, very unfair. There is a physical advantage, and there is no doubt about it. How is it that a swimmer like Leah Thomas, when competing on the men's team, was ranked something like 400? Wasn't great, but takes a year off to quote unquote transition into a woman. And what happens? Number one in the country and wins an NCAA title. And the left is all for this. All for this. Now, this House bill passing in the House, not a surprise. But what is really, really concerning, guys, is that zero. I'm going to repeat that again. Zero Democrats supported keeping biological men out of women's sports. Zero Democrats. Now, you women out there, when it comes time to vote, remember that the Democrats were not trying to look out for your best interests. They were all for putting biological men into your sports and dominating you. They did that, guys. This is very, very concerning. Let's read this on Breitbart. The House passed on Thursday the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, a bill that would amend Title IX to prevent men from competing against women in school sports. No Democrat voted in favor of the measure, which passed 219 to 203. It was along party lines votes. And you may be thinking, wait a minute, hold on. Title IX? Did Title IX actually allow men to actually compete against women? No, it didn't. Now, Title IX was like 50 years ago. And I believe when they actually made Title IX, they probably were never thinking that you would actually have men identifying as women. That really wasn't a thing back in the 1970s. Honestly, guys, it really wasn't a thing really like 10 years ago. This phenomenon has really taken off in like the last 3 years. And the Democrats, they're all for it. They're all for this, guys. The bill would clarify that in the Education Amendments of 1972, the term sex, as mentioned under the Title IX section, quote, shall be recognized based solely on a person's reproductive biology and genetics at birth. Now, any common sense thinking person already knows this. But what the Democrats are doing, they're trying to actually change what sex really is. Now you got this whole new thing called assign male at birth or assign female at birth. In other words, they're saying that the doctor is pretty much just taking a guess on your sex at birth. That's why they use this whole assign thing, which is ridiculous. No, either born a man or you are born a woman. It is just that simple. The bill would work to withhold funding from schools receiving federal financial assistance should they violate Title IX by allowing transgender athletes to compete in sports programs designed for the opposite sex. Quote, it's about muscle mass and it's about fairness, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said in a press conference flanked by colleagues and 3 female student athletes who have been forced to compete against men and lost out on opportunities because of it. That's sad, guys. And Joe Biden, he's all for this. Now, this passed in the House, but there is no way this is actually going to pass the Senate, I believe, because the Democrats, they have the majority in the Senate. And of course, Beijing Biden is not going to sign this, even if it gets past the Senate. This is a major problem, folks. And me and Rhodes have talked about this on the network channel. We're fractured, man. There's certain things that you cannot negotiate on. Something like this, you cannot negotiate on. There is no middle ground on stuff like this. There's no middle ground. I would never, ever negotiate and change my beliefs on this. Men should not be competing against women. I mean, a woman could really, really get hurt physically in the ring. I mean, if this does pass, if Joe Biden and Democrats get their way, you're going to see like a Mike Tyson in a boxing ring with a woman. And boy, it could end badly. Very, very badly. The legislation comes after Beijing Biden's Department of Education ramped up efforts on this month to allow men who say they are women into women's athletics through a Title IX rule proposal. Though the bill is not expected to advance in the Senate, the Biden administration announced that if it were to make it to Beijing Biden's desk, he would veto it. He's telling you right there, guys. He's telling you right there. And women, wake up. Wake up. Next year is an election year. And I'm talking to you women out there. Why in the world would you go out there and put out a vote, cast your vote for a Democrat when they're trying to erase you? Why would you do that? If it's not you, it's going to be your daughters. Why would you actually support a party that is against women? They're against you guys. It's just that simple. They're perfectly okay with men going over there in the women's sports and spaces and dominating you. Dominating you. Riley Gaines gets attacked. Guess what? Joe Biden, nothing to say about it. Karine Jean-Pierre, nothing to say about it. They do not care about biological women whatsoever. The White House contended the bill targets people for who they are and therefore is discriminatory. They actually called the bill discriminatory. If anything, man, this whole men competing in women's sports thing is discriminating against the women because there is a physical advantage for the men. Quote, transgender youth already face a nationwide mental health crisis. Well, transgenderism is a mental health thing. And there's one thing about this transgenderism thing. We don't treat it. It's a mental health problem, but yet they don't treat it. They enable it right here. This is crazy, man. This is really, really crazy that zero Democrats don't support this bill. Zero. Zilch. They don't care about you women. They do not care. What's going to happen next fall, guys, in November? How can you actually go out there and vote for a party that is clearly against women? They don't want to save women's sports. They don't care about you. They're all about the tease. That's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Black and white sports fans, let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.